Hello, welcome back to Doula Landon. I am a doula here in Portland, Oregon, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Diane, and she is a retired child and youth psychiatrist. Hi, Diane. Thank you for
Hi.
being here with
Hi,
us.
I'm so glad to be with you. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am as you mentioned, a retired child psychiatrist, and I am a suicide attempt and suicide loss survivor myself. I had attempted suicide in medical school, and thank God I did not kill myself, even though that had been my intention, right? So I'm lucky to be alive. And that has fueled my passion to help those that are in distress and have contemplated suicide, or they attempted and they're still having difficulties. I'm the founder director of the Hold On campaign for suicide prevention, which uses the power of art to educate, connect, express, and heal. I'm a poet and an artist and a storyteller, and very proud to say that I'm an internationally award-winning lyricist of songs related to suicide prevention, and amazingly, a story that I wrote about healing from trauma called Bird That Wants to Fly inspired an opera, and it's narrated by the actor Danny Glover.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It just shows, I don't know, the cosmos wants healing messages to get out.
Yes, we all need this. Healing is a long journey and a long process, but it's a necessary one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Oregon, and I'm going to be quoting from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, who's citing the CDC's most recent data, which is 2022. According to that data, in Oregon, suicide is our 10th leading cause of death. However, I want to say that in 2023, it became the 8th leading cause of death.
Oh, it's going down.
Yeah, well, it's going up in terms of suicide. It was the 10th.
It was the 10th.
And now it's the 8th leading cause of death.
Okay.
Right? All right, back in 2022, it was the second leading cause of death for 10 to 24. And also for 25 to 34, right? And also I want to mention the importance of gun safety, because access to lethal means, which could include a gun, other weapons, or medications, etc., but speaking specifically about firearms, that 73% of firearm deaths were suicide, and 54% of all suicides were by firearms.
That's a big number.
And it used to be that men far more proportionately were using the firearms, but women now are using firearms as well. So that's a risk factor for them too.
Yeah, it is important and having kids in the house and firearms,
absolutely,
and all the school shootings that have been happening is not a good
Can you
mix.
imagine the reality, which is a reality in some families, where a gun unfortunately was not appropriately secured and your child used that gun to kill themselves?
Yeah, or even on accident.
Yes.
A sibling.
You're right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to my home, we're like, no firearms. Yeah. Although in my family, other family members, they are hunters, and they do keep gun safety. They're in a safe, locked, and only dad knows the password, and no one's allowed near that. So, and at least for my daughter, I did talk about, like, this is what these weapons are typically used for. We don't have any uncles, they're hunters. Kind of let her know and not keep it like a secret, or make her I don't want to scare her
Yes.
in any way, but, you know, weapons are not to be pointed at us. Even the toy weapons at home.
Yes.
I like, let's not point those at each other. You can point it somewhere else and play, you know, shooting something else, but not like each other or faces, because I don't know, I feel like there has to be some connection there with all the school shootings that have been happening, because we've been exposed to weapons as a young age, and in movies and in theater, and so it's just out there where it's very normalized, where it's not like, it's almost like unless people start making noise and talking about it, that it's just out there.
And I like what you said, Alma, about not being afraid to talk about certain things, that we need to talk about it. And that also is especially true with suicide. You know, I think that sometimes we might be afraid, if I bring up the word suicide, that's going to make a person die by suicide, right? Like, do I dare ask them? Let's say they seem like they're more isolated, or they just feel, you get that vibe that something's not okay, right?
Yeah.
And we may hesitate because we care about the person, but we hesitate in asking how not okay are they feeling.
Is it important to ask?
It is important to ask. You know, have you thought about not waking up in the morning? Have you thought about ending your life? Have you thought about suicide? And said in a judgmental, punitive way, right? But in an open way, because asking is not going to increase their risk of attempting suicide. So we don't have to be frightened that we're going to hurt our friend or our loved one by asking.
I'm curious, how would you ask a child, or maybe a young adult, like a child specifically that, you know, is thinking about suicide? How what would be your approach if a parent had concerns?
Well, I think first I would be asking what's been going on lately, right?
Okay.
Asking if they have thought about, you know, is there a way to solve this problem? Right? Have they told anybody how they're feeling? Right? I would be asking also questions about reasons why they're so upset. You know, is there bullying going on? Is there a relationship breakup? You know, are there problems at home? You know, try to, with compassion, but try to kind of see through the child's eyes of what's happening for them. And then asking really directly, you know, are you thinking that it would be better not to be alive? Right? Have you done anything to make yourself not alive? Right? Because sometimes we can be, of course, we need to be focused on the moment, right? But if you don't ask the question, you may not get the answer. It could be that the person right in front of you has attempted suicide before, right? I had an experience, this is with not a youth, but an adult, back when I was treating adults, and that a person was telling me that they were going through a substance abuse problem, and they were in substance relapse. But on the phone with them, they were describing really how terrible they were feeling, right? And in my conversation with them, I asked them, and I'm so grateful I thought to ask them this, I asked, are you doing anything right now to hurt yourself? And the answer was she had just taken a drug overdose.
Oh.
So she was attempting suicide as we were talking to each other. And fortunately, she told me, that's another key thing to talk about. Fortunately, she told me what was going on, and I was able to, you know, call 911, which saved her life.
And how is she doing now?
Well, she recovered, you know, from that, and she continued in treatment, and she was doing better.
Oh, that's great.
That's the thing about suicide that is so horrific, is that it's a final act. You don't see the next chapter of your life. You don't even see the next sentence of your life. And yet the difficulty that the person that they're going through, which is extreme. It's either extreme or their reaction to is extreme, right? They're in such incredible pain. And the reason for the suicide and the thoughts about it could be, I can't stand this one moment longer. I'm in such pain, right? And yet, if they were able to hold on a little longer, that difficulty could be resolved, lessened, get support. Things can change for the better. But if we act to end our life, that's it. No second chances.
I wanted to talk a little bit about when we met, the first time we met. So I went to the mental health and suicide prevention conference where you were one of the panelists, and you talked about a story of a psychiatrist and her children. Is there any way you could share that story again with me?
Yes. I may have been speaking of a friend of mine named Stacy. She was a nurse practitioner. And I was newly to Oregon. I'm originally from the East Coast. My daughter had a baby. I moved to Oregon.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I was working at a mental health agency, and Stacy and I were on the same team. We weren't best friends, but we were friends, right? And I want to say this is very important. I really respected her. I respected her as a human being, and I also respected her skill in quality care to her patients, right? She was the mother of 2 sets of young twins, right? Elementary and younger.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. And I was no longer working at that agency. I had gone to another organization. And one day I'm on Facebook, just scrolling, and I see that Stacy died. And she was about 48 years old, and I was shocked. I contacted a mutual friend who had also worked at that agency, and I found out that she had developed a severe depression, was unable to work.
Do you think it was a postpartum depression if her children were still really young?
I don't have enough information to say that.
Okay.
I don't think so. But I know, I was reading an article recently about maternal mental health, and they talked about that the postpartum monitoring stage, I think, should last at least a year. And you would know that better than I, that the risk factors, it's not just following up with the baby postpartum, you're following up with the mother postpartum.
So there was a fellow doula I was working with where she said postpartum isn't just right after your birth. You need to look at postpartum. It's a lifetime care because that is forever. You will be postpartum. Yes. And you will always go through things with your children. Yeah. And just everything changes after. So for you to not be postpartum isn't really like a question.
Yeah, it's interesting. Without that word and oxymoron, it doesn't make sense.
So she just postpartum is forever.
Yes.
And I was like, forever. Yeah. And it's because your mind changes. All those hormones that were once released, like that's the journey. Yeah. And you're now a mother. It's like being a mother. You can't unmother. Yes. You're forever a mother. Yeah. So yes, like you were saying, postpartum should be longer and monitored a lot longer.
For mothers, right, that postpartum, right, that there's suicide risk in that period. There's also homicide risk in that part.
What does homicide mean?
Meaning murder.
Okay.
murder
of their
by a
children.
significant other.
Okay.
Right? It's the statistics are it's frightening. Right?
Yes, very much so.
Going back to my friend Stacy, I learned that she had developed herself a depression. You know, I think there were hospitalizations, unable to work, and very tragically, she died by suicide.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
And that was in August 2019. And I want to say that although in some circumstances it could be that a person in mental health distress, be that a man or a woman, right, that you would think, oh, having children is going to absolutely save them, you know, because you're dedicated to taking care of your child. Mm-hmm. However, in extreme situations of mental health despair or a specific mental illness, even the love of your children is not going to keep you alive. And it's not a selfish act. Sometimes people think, oh, it's selfish, you know, that's a selfish person. No, the person that is suicidal, one, their thinking is so distorted, and they're only really thinking about the incredible pain that they're feeling, that they may have even forgotten about anybody else in their life, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be they're thinking, oh, I am a burden to my family. They'd be better off if I'm dead, right? Which again is a distorted, you know, thought.
Yeah.
After Stacy died, a few weeks after that had happened, I had an experience where I was walking down Lovejoy Street going to a Starbucks, and it's tree-lined, that street, and I saw a tree that looked unusual to me. And I took a photo of the tree. It had branches coming off in to me, like a strange place, and either kneeling next to the tree or when I got to Starbucks, I wrote down the words, just like this tree, we all yearn to grow. Hope lives, shame kills. Every day is Suicide Prevention Day. Take good care of yourself, and may you grow ever stronger in your love. And I sent my words and the photo to a artist collaborator, Amanda Meador, and she created a beautiful poster of that. But it was interesting because when Mandy sent it back to me first, the roots of the tree, of the illustration she had done, were just dangling. There was no earth around the roots. And I said, apropos of the tree, but also as a metaphor for connection, I said, you have to put earth around the roots and add some flowers too. And that image became a beautiful poster, and I've even had it blown up to 7 feet tall.
Wow. That
I bring to NAMI Walks, National Alliance of Mental Illness. And that walk, it happens across Oregon and across the United States. That's happening, I believe, May the 17th, and I'll be there with my giant poster.
Oh.
Yeah, I encourage listeners who want to participate.
Yeah, we can have that in the show notes.
Yes, and there's many resources, you know, at that event too. So in a way, it also is an example of that from tragedy, we need to, I don't know, re-inspire ourselves to try to prevent the next suicide. Because suicide, perhaps not in all cases, however, in very, very, very many situations, suicide can be prevented. These are deaths that did not have to occur. And that person is now dead, and all their loved ones are forever going to feel the intense loss.
The grief.
The grief.
And grief doesn't go away. You learn to live with it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a process. Can you tell me if anybody wanted to become trained in kind of learning about those cues that people give out? What do you suggest?
Okay. Well, I had mentioned NAMI before, and they provide all sorts of educational, forums, as well as also support groups and things like that.
And NAMI, would it be a AMI.com or?
It might be NAMI.org. Just look up
Okay.
National Alliance of Mental Illness, and then there's chapters.
Okay.
So there's like a Northwest chapter, et cetera. Also, the Oregon Health Authority. If you look that up, they have a whole list of trainings. Right. If you just Google, right, warning signs of suicide, right, you will find a plethora of information.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it can be hard for people, like they'll see a clue, but they don't know how to go about it. And sometimes you don't even know what to look up or how to search, like somebody's having an issue, and then that's how you see it. Like, that was an issue, but is it an issue, or should we approach it like it's a prevention? Like, that you just got a clue, and now learn, educate yourself, and you never know, you could save a friend, a family, a mother, a sister, a brother, somebody's
coworker.
a coworker.
I think it's better to be safe than sorry and filled with regret. I can mention a few type warning signs.
Yes,
but again,
please
I would encourage people to look this up as well.
Okay.
For example, the person is they're sleeping too much, right? Too much sleep, too little sleep. Eating habits have changed, too much, too little. The person's hygiene is off. Lack of pleasure. The person is just not enjoying what they used to enjoy. So that's a little different than being depressed. It's just they're having, quote, anhedonia, just not having that spark anymore. The person may be isolating. They can be talking about suicide, right? Or making references to death or funerals. The person could be giving away belongings, right? They can be talking about feeling depressed, right? A person could be in, let's say, severe financial stress, right? That I just want to mention that suicide is an act, it's a behavior, right? It can be associated with many different things, and there's also not one cause. It's a complex, unique situation. But it's not that a person has to have a diagnosed psychiatric illness. They don't even have to have a psychiatric illness to experience suicidal thoughts and possibly attempt suicide. So let's say someone has a gambling addiction, right? And they're in terrible financial state, or maybe their relationship has just broken up. All sorts of piled on stress. The person's coping skills may totally shut down, right? So those are some examples.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So back to other trainings that people can reach out for that you would maybe suggest.
I'll tell you, that something else may pop into my head, so I can't think of anything else.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Actually, I am thinking of something. If you look up Lines for Life, right, which is a Oregon organization. Also, I want to say, I'm going to give a shout out to them. They are having their Hope Gala tonight. Right, at the Portland Art Museum. Right?
Really?
Yes. That Lines for Life helps support different trainings too.
And that's the conference where we met, actually, where I sat in the panel.
They have their upcoming conference is going to be at the end of this month.
Are you going to be a panelist again?
No, but I have a display table,
Okay.
and I'm going to be sharing about the what I'm going to mention in a moment.
Oh, please, whenever you're ready.
So just going back to Lines for Life, that there are there's like mental health first aid,
yes,
right? And some of these trainings, it's not that it's geared towards different people. So it could be a peer support Or there's another one for just a regular person who wants to know, what do I say to someone if I have some concern? And then there might be for paraprofessionals or for social workers or counselors. There's an array of training. And also, one could contact these agencies or look on their websites, and under resources, they're going to link to other programs that have information and training.
I always like it when organizations have their staff go to these trainings, because that's kind of part of that care. Like, oh, my coworker, you know, I noticed something, and then you can start looking for help, or maybe you see those clues and you talk to somebody or talk to them, or, you know, reach out to save a life, which I think is very important.
Reach out to save a life, and reach out to save your own life.
Yes.
Because that goes back into the idea of there can still be stigma, right, and a lot of silence and shame. You know, the feeling of, I'm not feeling okay. That's embarrassing. I don't want to tell anybody. But that should be the time of, I'm a human being. Everybody has difficulties. I deserve to live. I'm going to reach out for help. So
and I think it's important that if one person dismisses us, that we talk to somebody else that won't dismiss us, that will listen. And, you know, finding that person to kind of be able to just vent things can help your mental health too. I always love talking to my friends, and a lot of times they've lived through life, they've gone through things, so I feel like they're so wise and they have all this stuff to share, and I really appreciate it, because in my moment I can be like frustrated, overwhelmed, and they're like, you know, it's okay to be overwhelmed, it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to let it out and talk about it. And I feel like I feel like free. Like I let that out into the air, and now the wind can take it away.
Oh, how beautiful.
So,
and also that what you said is about compassionate listening, and without judgment, and without sort of jumping in and saying, I can fix that. Because I think very often people just want to be heard. They want someone to witness what they're going through, right? Like, I can see and hear that you're having such a hard time, and it's understandable. Right?
And always suggesting, is there something I can do?
Yes.
And if I can do it, I'm there. But if I can't, be honest. And then suggest maybe you need a specialist that can help you, because this is kind of beyond my scope. And so that's always very important. Could you share with us a little bit about what you do,
Sure.
and your projects that you're working on?
So in July of 2023, I founded the Hold On campaign for suicide prevention. And the Hold On campaign uses the power of art to educate, connect, express, and heal. And that art could be many things. It could be music, it could be a song, it could be poetry, it could be dance, right? Photography, etc. A way to release your feelings safely, right? And so art can be a way that we can communicate with ourselves, right? And of course, when going back, it could be a poem, right? So of course, that's using words, but that's using words in a different kind of way. And there can be a power in metaphor, right? There may be some experiences that are beyond words, right? We have to symbolize them, right? So it's a way to safely express, and it's also a way to communicate with others, right? And the Hold On campaign, I feel, is sort of a pulling together of so many of my life experiences. And how it specifically came about was that I had written a poem called Heartbreak Times Infinity. And That was in December 2022, I believe. It was after I read of the death of Stephen Boss, a.k.a. Twitch, whom I didn't know of, but I read his obituary in the New York Times, and he was a celebrity. He had worked with Ellen DeGeneres in terms of like a director. He was a dancer. He was on Dancing with the Stars, and he and his wife, Allison Holker, were social media stars. And he, rather than the idea of being, quote, a star, what was amazing about him was he seemed to have a magnetic personality. He was loving, charming, inspiring, and he died by suicide. Right? And I wrote a poem called Heartbreak Times Infinity, related to that loss. And in the refrain of it, there was a phrase that went, but hold on, your thoughts are all mixed up, right? Like feelings come and go. This pain is not going to last. So if you hold on, right? And then I thought to have this become a song, and I found a collaborator, Shan Carballo, who created the song Hold On. And then the song began winning all sorts of international awards. So it had won a gold award at a Paris Film Award Festival. And I was feeling so excited about winning this award, but at the very same time I was feeling terrible because I had made it into a video and it had the 988 number on it, beautifully animated by Lucia Martinez Rojas, and I wanted the video to be shown to help prevent suicide, that it wasn't about winning an award, right, for it to be shown. And and then I'm going to sleep feeling really defeated, right?
Like, could you really quickly tell us what 988 is?
Oh, yes, sure. Let me just wrap this up, and I'll go to 988. And so I fell asleep feeling so torn, like, oh, my God, I want to get the message out there. And I woke up the next morning saying, I'm going to start the Hold On campaign for suicide prevention.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So 988 is the 24/7 number. It is the suicide and crisis lifeline number through like the U.S. government, as it were, right? A national program. And if you call that number, there's also an ability to chat and text. And if you look up, I think would probably like 988.org, right? Or Google 988, you'll get the website, that you will be channeled to a local organization, right, who will listen to you, right, and help refer you and find resources to help you. So rather than calling 911, right, now we have a specific mental health lifeline.
That is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not everybody knows about 988. And I can show you, I had shown you this earlier, but our suicide prevention bracelet, right, through the Hold On campaign, which says, hold on, don't give up, which are what we need to do, which are also the names of two of our songs. It says, call 988, save your life. And inside it says, every day is Suicide Prevention Day. And I'm also had it translated into Spanish. And those will be arriving next week.
Yes, and I will be passing those out to my fellow doula friends and my clients, just so they have, just to reference in case they ever feel like they're in a crisis.
I want to share with you about the Create Resilience Youth Art Contest. That endeavor, it received a grant from the Oregon Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Council, and it is for Oregon youth. Does not have to be someone who's in school, right, or in mental health treatment. Could just be a regular person, 13 to 21. It's free to enter the contest. Again, 13 to 21 years old. And the question is to creatively share, right? It could be an essay, a poem, a song, a video, how to improve youth mental health, right? So the contest is open for entries starting May 1st. May is Mental Health Awareness Month through August the 1st. And the winners will be announced September the 10th, which is World Suicide Prevention Day. And there will be cash awards that are guaranteed to be given out. And those
That's awesome.
cash awards are $350 first prize, $300, and then $250. 200, let me think, $350, $300, $250, and then $250 honorable mentions. Yeah, and I reached out to Blick Art Supplies to see if they might support this in some way, and I'm happy to say that they're donating 4 $25 gift certificates, which will also be given out for the contest. So I'm really looking for youth to participate because we want to know what they think. Right? As I shared earlier, suicide is the second leading cause of death in our state
and
for that age group.
I think for those age groups, regardless of a contest, they should create art.
Yes.
They have all this energy and time and innocence to them that I feel like creating art and communicating with others all around the world that might be feeling the same as they are through art is important. Whether it's video, photography, painting.
And it creates community.
Yes, definitely.
Where there may not have been community, you can create it through the art.
I recently learned of a new art, which is called plant willow tree art, where they plant willow trees. Apparently they have this growth hormone that roots, but they twist it and make these really cool seats or like little structures, but they're molding the tree to grow that way, and they're pruning it and they're watering it and they're taking care of it, which is a whole other level of mental health therapy. But I was like, wow, that's an art. You can grow a tree to be a chair. Or you can, there was this one person that they had all these tools that had lost the handles, like the shovels and the picks, and they somehow managed to grow it in a way where that tool becomes the tree, and then later he cuts it. He's like, it took 15 years to make this shovel, but I grew its handle from a tree.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that is so beautiful. I did want to say, Diane, thank you for being here with us. Is there anything, last words you would like to share with us?
Well, I definitely want to thank you. You know, it's an honor to be with you and with your audience, too. I'd like to encourage people to feel proud of who they are, even if they're having difficulties, right? You're a unique person. You can never, ever be replaced. You deserve to live, and you deserve to get help, right? Also, our website for the Hold On campaign for suicide prevention is www.holdoncampaign.org. And on that website, there's a Create Resilience section that has many different services that we provide. And again, I'm just so grateful to being with you today.
And
Thank
if anybody wants to find you specifically, are you on social media at all?
Yeah, so the Hold On campaign has a Facebook page, right? On the website itself, there's a Get Involved and Contact page. And if a person fills that out, there's also an area to send a message that I will receive that, and I'll be in touch with you.
Okay. I want to say, Diane, thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing all this great information. And hopefully we're able to do another episode together because there's still so much more to share and to talk about. I do want to say thank you for being here with us. I will have in our show notes more information and links to some of this information. Feel free to share it with anyone that you would like. If you have any concerns, you can also call 988 ask them questions if you're calling for someone else, and you're trying to just help. They also have resources for families and people that for people that have gone through with a suicide and you need help kind of processing that. They also have resources and information for you. Thank you again. I was your host, Dula Landon. Hope to see you here again next time. Thanks.